Welcome back, everyone, to Popularity and Price, the video program. Let's go ahead and dive in. New lows actually led new highs on Friday, which was a little surprising given the rally we had. But these prices and this screen reflects intraday highs and lows, so it doesn't necessarily talk exclusively about closing prices. I haven't exactly figured out the best way to go ahead and track closing highs and lows just yet. I prefer that, but you got to work with what we got. So this is the first weekend post that we're going to go do, including the video program. So I'm going to kind of walk you guys through the repeat offenders, how I'm looking at these names, and the sectors and industries. So as mentioned in the blog post, the repeat offenders include stocks that have made multiple new highs and lows throughout the week. So appearances would represent just that. So how many sessions during the previous week did this stock make a new high? So Hilton Worldwide, 5 appearances, and I color code based on total appearances and sort based on followers and stock tweets, like always. So this is a nice little list to just kind of give a quick overview on relative strength throughout the week, as well as relative weakness. Obviously, if a stock is making new highs or lows every single session, that's going to be something notable to keep an eye on versus, okay, it made a new high once and completely collapsed. That's not as notable. Our industries and sectors, we're going to start over here on the right with the sectors. So the reoccurring new highs sectors list includes every single stock that makes a new high or new low throughout the week. And this can be the same stock multiple times. So if Uber made, 3 new highs during the week, it would include 3 new highs for technology. Same thing going on the reoccurring lows. The industries is tracked the same way. Every single stock can be counted multiple times if it shows up on the list multiple times. So I'm still kind of on the fence exactly with how much I like that process, but I felt like this was more appropriate than taking names out if the same name reoccurred on the list, if you're only counting it once. To me, it gives a more broad sense of the strongest industries and the strongest sectors, as well as the weakest ones, if you're counting each name as it occurs. So let's dive into a couple charts. We're going to start with the new highs because that's what I'd rather focus on. I do have a long bias, and although you can make money on the short side, markets go up long term. So number one name that I wanted to point out this week is this Duolingo. So it gapped up on earnings and had an absolute monster day on Thursday and gained another 4% on Friday. One little snippet from their earnings piece that really caught my eye is Duolingo is no longer exclusively in the language learning business. They also got into mathematics and music education. So I know this like online education, alternative education, however you want to classify it, has been a relatively strong group. I'm not sure if it's an official group that is being tracked, but we see names like LRN making new highs. I mean, this thing is an absolute monster. I know we pointed out Udemy in this week's episode of Trends with Friends with Howard Lindzen, JC Peretz, and Phil Pearlman. So interesting things setting up here in the alternative education, online education, however you want to classify it, in that space. Next one up is going to be this Light and Wonder. This had an absolute bonkers day following earnings. Light and Wonder creates like content-based gambling games. So any sort of like, I don't even know what they're called, like the little spinny wheel games, casino games, slot machine kind of games, like the digital ones. That's what this company does. And absolute monster day, 11.2%. And it's about 2.5% off its October 21 all-time highs. We're going to zoom out to a monthly chart, and looks like this thing's just about to get going. So next one up is going to be Transdigm Group. Could be mispronouncing that. Feel free to correct me. Another stock that ripped on earnings. They issued a special $35 dividend in their earnings report. And the stock had a major move, instantly up just under 9% and then another 2% on Friday. This is a $55 billion company, and its stock is very expensive. I know some people shy away from these names because they're like, oh, geez, I don't want to spend $1,000 on a stock. But you got to frame it in the peace of mind of total allocation size. So would you rather buy a single share of $1,000 stock or 1,000 shares of a $1 stock? It's going to be the same exposure. And typically, the most expensive stocks tend to get more expensive. MicroStrategy is up next. Now, this company reported earnings earlier this month. These guys hold a ton of Bitcoin. I know they added more Bitcoin in their last earnings report. MicroStrategies. Let's see what their current holdings are. So they have 158,400 Bitcoins, which 158,100 times, let's see, what is Bitcoin trading at? Like 37,000? Say 37,300. So let's see. So it's just under 6 billion in Bitcoin. I think I saw a headline too that Michael Saylor was up $1 billion in his Bitcoin bet. So to me, MicroStrategies is a very interesting play. It's essentially a de facto Bitcoin ETF, given that they hold so much. And you also have a profitable enterprise software company. So until we have a spot Bitcoin ETF, MicroStrategies is my Bitcoin equity play of choice. I know some people like to play the miners. However, I'm a little iffy on the miners just given the halvening. I'm not exactly sure what that is going to do to the business model for those miners. Some people like to play Coinbase, but to me, I'd rather have more of a pure play, and I think that's MicroStrategies. Next one up, we touched on it last week, this Golden Haven Group Holdings. They are an amusement park manufacturer out of China. Stock has been on an absolute tear. I think it's up like 680%, almost 700% from its low here on September 8th. Shout out to anyone who got into this name early, but I typically like to buy new highs, but to me this seems like we're chasing it at this point. It is only a $1.2 billion company, but it's been on an absolute tear. And to me, the risk reward is not in favor for the longs if you're initiating a long position now. Let's touch on Uber real quick. Solid move on Friday, like most of these other big cap tech names. If we zoom out, this thing is breaking out of a massive base. It's all-time high here in February 2021 was 64.05. So we're still about 15 points, 14 points, 13 and change off of that. But I really like this setup, and I love the fact that it's gapping up on earnings. We could see a nice little post-earnings announcement drift here. I'm not sure if it's going to be a straight shot to these all-time highs, but it certainly seems like we're heading that way in the near future. We might need one more earnings gap to get us to blue sky. Adobe's up next. This seems like it was one of the strongest big cap tech names in the market last week. It was up 6%. Nice clean breakout of this weekly flag. Still about 100 points off its all-time highs. But I really like Adobe in terms of a AI play. I've been really impressed with the work that the Adobe suite has been bringing in terms of the AI atmosphere. The generative fill stuff is really interesting, and I think for creatives, Adobe is in a very, very, very strong position to propel AI. We haven't even seen too much of the AI integration into Premiere Pro, their video editing software. And I think when that happens, everyone's mind is going to be blown. So Adobe's one to watch. Microsoft, I have to take that back, what I said about Adobe. I think Microsoft was the strongest big cap tech performer last week. It's close. They're up 5% as well, but breaking out to all-time highs. Nothing but blue sky ahead. So it seems like the big keep getting bigger, and this isn't a trend we want to trade against by any means. Broadcom, another super epic bull flag here on the weekly chart. All-time highs. Again, expensive stocks tend to get more expensive, so I'm liking where this thing is going. And let's take a look at Costco. Typically, some of these retailers, especially like the big box retailers, Costco and Walmart are about the only exceptions, but we look at Target, and we're seeing almost the inverse of a Costco. So it could be a nice, interesting pair trade, long Costco, short Target. But we're knocking on the door of these all-time highs here at 600. And if we get going, I don't know, maybe we take 1,000. Who knows? I'm not really in the prediction game as to where these things are going to top out at, but absolutely an epic base if we look at the weekly chart. Super strong stock, one of the strongest stocks of all time. And we're knocking at the doors. So it's great to see Costco on the list, $250 billion company. Now let's go to the turds, the new lows. Spirit Airlines, this thing has been down, I want to say 13 out of the last 15 days. Absolutely brutal. The stock is just off of its COVID lows, which is never a good sign. And they're coming under scrutiny with their proposed merger with JetBlue. The Department of Justice is trying to stop the merger, and I think they're still in court. Haven't seen any official results from that investigation trial, and it doesn't look good for Spirit Airlines, especially when the market was rocking. For a stock to close down 5.5% at its low of the day is never a positive sign. Top Golf Callaway Brands is another new low. Gap down on earnings. And really looks like the next point of support, next point of support is right here at about $10, which is where we're trading. So if this thing continues to slip, it might come down here to 8, 7.5. Who knows? But saw an interesting stat that since it merged with Topgolf, which is back here in October of 2020, this thing is down a whopping 40%. And I never would have guessed. Topgolf is a fun spot, and I don't know, maybe the business metrics just aren't right. So stay away from Topgolf, Callaway Brands. I know golf has been hot. Everybody was super hyped on golf post-COVID, but I think what's going to happen in the game of golf is yet to be seen. Super bullish par 3 golf, and I think there's a revolution coming into the game. It's still a little unclear as to what that's going to look like, but I think golf as we know it is going to change. I don't know if that will change the incumbents in the space, if the brands will change, if we'll see new brands. We've already started to see some new streetwear golf brands. We'll have to see what happens to these legacy names. Inspire Medical Systems, these guys make a product to help with sleep apnea. Absolute brutal downtrend here since its July all-time highs. Stock gap down on earnings. And as you can see, with a nice round trip from its breakout here in November of 2020. Filled the gap, so to speak. Don't want to be touching this thing. Fisker, maybe one of the worst looking EV automakers in the market. Last week we talked about them postponing their earnings report. They're scheduled to report earnings tomorrow, so we'll see what those numbers come out to be, but it doesn't seem like it's a bullish sign if a company is trying to delay their earnings report. Who knows what could happen, but to me, if the numbers were super positive, why would they postpone them? Another EV stock that's in the crapshoot is Lucid. These stocks are just getting hammered, and it's no surprise. They're losing tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on every vehicle they make, and good luck competing with Tesla. They spend $0 on marketing. All Elon has to do is tweet a photo of the Cybertruck, and it'll get probably tens of millions of impressions. So, last one up here is Array Technologies. For a while, Array was the strongest looking solar stock, but we've seen what's happened to solar. It's been taken to the woodshed, and Array is the next one where the sun does not come out. So these guys made semiconductors for solar panels. So you would think it's kind of like that picks and shovels business of the industry, but they got whacked on earnings, and they're trading below this kind of pivot here at like 14.5. So looks like they're going to fill this gap from July of 2022, and we'll see. This is a higher low. Get rid of that. Excuse me. This is a lower high. So we'll have to see if we get a lower low. That can get ugly. So hope you enjoyed this episode. It's run a little bit longer than anticipated, but if you have any comments, questions, concerns, please shoot me an email. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'll continue to post these as I am available. But happy trading and have a great week.